Okay, it's time to swap out the bolts in the four-link setup, and whether you've got a new build or you just need to do some maintenance and make sure you got some fresh bolts in there. Uh, Lots of options out there, lots of different fasteners. Typically, you're going to find a higher strength bolt in these applications. A typical bolt you're going to get, a standard grade 8, is usually going to be in 1/4 inch increments. It might be 1.5 inches, 1 3/4, 2 inch, and then you'll find usually a fully threaded and then a partially threaded. Sometimes you'll find a couple partially threaded, but in general, there's not a lot of options. When we're putting a bolt into a heim joint, for example, we want to have, we don't want to have this threaded portion, pounding against the brackets and against the heim joint if at all possible. So these are AN bolts. Again, there's a lot of different options with these. This one is a 1/2 inch 20 with inch and 27/32 length and a grip length of 1 1/16 inch. So that's going to give us, just as a comparison, a very much longer grip length, so that we can have, so we don't have those threads in areas where we don't want them. Now, of course, we're gonna have some washers. Here's a typical like AN washer. I like to use these when possible. They're smaller diameter, look clean, but sometimes a thicker washer may be needed because there is not infinite lengths that you can get for the grip length. So you might need to use a little bit thicker washer to get everything where you want it to be. And then we have, of course, this is a standard type of a nylock and a low profile nylock. So between these different parts, we can make something work here. This is the car we're using for the example. This is a typical four-link with a wishbone, but this applies to any similar suspension, ladder bar, things like that have a heim joint on them. Again, we'll go through each version of the bolts that we were showing and take a look at the fitment of them and see if we got one that will work. Threaded bolt. Obviously, I know that's not going to be the right thing, but I still want to demonstrate what it looks like. If you pull this out, and I have to just drop down the heim joint so it's out of the way so we can see what's going on. Because we're really looking at getting a grip length that works and goes all the way through the bracket. And again, the grip length is the non-threaded portion. So as we can see here, notice how much wiggle there is in that. Again, this is a 1/2 inch bolt and fully threaded. Obviously, not a good situation to have all threaded, because as that load applies to the bar, you're going to be applying that load to the peaks of the threads on the bolt. That essentially digs into your bracket and eventually causes premature wear, and also into your heim joint. So let's take a look at the other one we had. Was still kind of an off-the-shelf one with a short shoulder on it, a short grip length. And that one, you can see on this side, is a lot tighter fit, and over here is not as much. Obviously a little bit better, but not a great situation. Let's take a look at the AN bolt and see how close we got. Again, we measured this out and we looked at the chart, looked at the options, and we picked what we thought was the best. Again, you're not going to have an infinite number of options, but definitely have enough to get something good. You can see the grip length is all the way through. It's coming through right here. And notice that it's got a lot more solid connection here because it's not on the threads. Usually what I try and do is get that to almost zero with washers. I generally like to apply an AN washer when possible. They're small and work out pretty good. Then put it on both, you can still see there's still some of the grip length coming through. Something to keep in mind is that here's the couple different options we've got for the fastener for the nut. Notice that goes, there's almost like a little recessed lead-in portion of it. This will actually go past the threads because that diameter lead-in is larger than the threads, so it will go a little bit past that. It's possible this would tighten all the way up on there. It's going to leave a little bit of bolt coming out of it. If you use the short one, it doesn't have as much of a lead-in. It'll leave a little bit more thread sticking out. You can always take the bolt out. You can cut it off, turn it off, or just leave it, depending on what your preference is. In this case, a standard type of washer on the inside will get us past that grip length and tighten all the way up with a nut. Okay, this would seat all the way on with the nylock portion threaded into the actual threads. One thing you got to keep in mind is sometimes people put a nylock on there and it may be sitting like this. Well, it hasn't engaged the nylon portion of the nylock, therefore it's really just a nut at that point. So let's see what it looks like and we can give it a tighten up. Okay, that looks pretty good. Again, it's the bolt is all the way through. The other option, like we discussed before, would be to put the low profile nut on there. Sometimes I call it a jam nut, and you maybe turn off some of the threads. Either way, functionally, it's going to be great this way. There's no end play back and forth, and yet we do have the grip length in the right portions. You're going to apply the same principle to all of these. Not all brackets might be the same, and usually your fourlinks will be the same, but I'll show you one thing about this car that'll be a little bit different with the grip length, and that's based on the wishbone area. You can see that this bolt here goes all the way through a bracket. That holds the wishbone on. And also you have, like here you have a wishbone bolt that holds it in here. So this is not all the way together yet, but this will be a little bit different length as well. Just go through all of them, take some measurements, and then go back and see what options you have for the bolts and do the best you can. Again, there's not going to be infinite number, but you can usually figure out something that'll work good. Just a few other things I wanted to point out about the difference in the bolts. Again, the big thing is the grip length. And if you look here, this non-threaded portion, the grip length portion, is like 497, but it steps down like, I don't know, 20 thousandths or so right before it goes into the threaded portion. So as you slide this through the four-link bracket, try and get that portion outside of the bracket just a little bit. Ideally, that would come out. And then when you thread this on, you'll notice the thread's on, and then you can see the threads disappear right there. But it'll go a little bit further because you have that step-down section. So just keep that in mind when you're setting up your bolt or selecting your bolt. This one has a X on the center of the head. Thought that might be a little bit helpful if you ever want to measure the distance between centers on your four-link bar. But yeah, other than that, you have quite the variety. You're not going to find small increments like 1 inch, 27, 30 seconds on the length with the 1 1/16 grip length at the hardware store. So, finding these and getting the right one set up for your four-link so you don't mess that up and get have like some premature wear, or also some consistency issues as that starts to wear out and the slop is going on, and while you're launching a car and things of that nature. So hope this helps, and thanks for watching.